welcome into the Silver and Gold Show. I want to start off with an apology. Trevor McKinney could not be alongside me and Marco today. I am Jake Shapiro. We had some difficulties, some technical difficulties here on Sunday night. We did one whole podcast, and we all dispersed, came back, and the podcast was gone, and Trevor had left, so we're doing it again without Trevor. Sorry if we're a little bit more tired. We're doing this pretty late into the night, so that's how I want to begin with an apology. I feel like the Buffs owe us an apology after that game in Berkeley. Not necessarily, but just because I feel like I got my heart broken, which tends to happen a lot with these Buffs. Anyways, welcome into the 5th edition of the Silver and Gold Show, the Rodney Stewart edition. You can find us on Twitter at Silver Gold Show, on WordPress, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, all under Silver and Gold Show. And you can find us now on YouTube. The YouTube name is at Jake Shap 479, which is my name. Rodney Stewart edition, of course, number 5. Couldn't think of anyone else but Rodney Stewart. 3,598 rushing yards for CU, good for second all-time. Probably could have gotten to number 1, but missed 4 games his senior year. Has 9 CU records across the board, like most rushing attempts, most all-purpose yards. Anyways, me and Marco used to go watch his games back in middle school, and man, was he a hell of a player.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the only players that actually was able to even carry the team back then, and we relied on him so much. I kind of wish he would have had a pro career, but
tore his ACL his first practice as a Bengal.
Yeah, stuff happens. He was a great player for CU Buffs. That's all I really care about, and he's definitely one of the greatest running backs we ever had next to Salam.
And shout out to Eric Bieniemy, who coached him as the backs coach, who coached Adrian Peterson. We don't think he got a fair shake, and he really did a great job with Speedy. We're going to jump right into it now with the recap of the Golden Buffalo game. I love when they call us the Golden Buffaloes, by the way. That's an underused nickname. I think that's great. That's hanging up on my wall, the Golden Buffaloes. We dropped the game in Berkeley 59-56. The Buffs are now 5-6 all-time in overtime games. One of those wins was the 5th down, so something to hang your hat on there. We jumped out to a really, really fast start in this game, and we said last week on the podcast that the first quarter was going to be the most important quarter, and if we competed in the first quarter, we were going to be able to have a chance to win this game. We certainly had a chance to win this game, no doubt. You take a game into overtime, you do. Buffs led 14-0 right out the gate. Sefo had 2 touchdown passes, and then Cal came back, scored. Sefo had another touchdown pass to Dede Goodson to 21-7, and that was the lead going into the second quarter. We're going with a little bit of an abbreviated edition of the recap because there was 115 points scored in this game, so a lot to talk about. The second quarter, we both scored 7 points, that being the Buffs and the Bears. The big play in this quarter was the 92-yard passing play from Jared Goff, which Tedder Thompson had been hurt just before that play happened, and Tedder Thompson was the best player on the defense in this game before he had gotten hurt with a sternum injury. And that 92-yard passing play was a play the Buffs should not have let go 92 yards. A lot of missed tackles.
And there was a lot of missed tackles. There was really no safety coverage. And, I mean, I'm not trying to point out Addison Gillum, but he definitely kind of got beat on that play and he kind of looked stupid.
Well, I think it's important to mention Addison Gillum because we'll talk about it in our full game recap or the full talking points after the game, but Addison Gillum looks a little bit lost out there. He looks hurt. And you could tell he was a little bit dazed, and we don't see last week, and we don't see Addison Gillum miss tackles like that, like he did on that pass play. Right after that, George Frazier had his punch into the end zone, or one rushing TD of the game, to make it 28-14 at the half. But right before the half, we had Gilbert have a huge strip sack and give the Buffs another chance to score. And Will Oliver missed a field goal, which became a theme in this game. And that would have given the Buffs a chance to go up 31-14 at half, which is a considerable lead. Instead, they're only up 2 TDs. And that came really back to bite them. You go into the third quarter, and right away, Cal scores on a 26-yard TD pass. And right after that, the Buffs have the ball. And on the third play, it's 3rd and 7. The Buffs throw a
deep fade route.
Right, a deep fade route about 20 yards down the field. in midfield to D.D. Goodson. Cepho went to the right and threw this ball, and initially the Cal defender did make contact with D.D. Goodson, got his arm in before the ball was thrown, and initially there was a flag thrown on the play, which was then picked up, and the ref announced that the flag had been picked up and there was no pass interference on the play. And there was no reason announced. He just said there was no pass interference on the play.
Although replays clearly showed that there was pass interference. I mean, the secondary player got there first and got there.
Right, and the referees this game, they might have been wearing silver and gold, but they were not. They were Pac-12 refs, let's put it that way. But McIntyre proceeds to yell at these Pac-12 refs. He's very, very upset. And gets an unsportsmanlike foul from the lines judge, which he deserved. Very emotional, McIntyre. And then facetiously, when the head lines judge came over, just started yelling, good job, and patted him on the butt. And I was laughing pretty hard. I thought he was going to get suspended a week like a baseball manager would for making contact with the official. Maybe he would if he was in the MLB, but you know what? He's the one guy on the field allowed to have that type of emotion, even though maybe that emotion hurt the Buffs.
Yeah, I mean, it hurt them on the drive, but I think it might have fired up the team. I mean, later in the game, we saw some fire in the team, and I don't know. I mean, they feed off the coach, and he's an emotional player, or
emotional guy,
yeah. And he just, I mean,
right after that though, the Buffs did let up a TD to go 28-28, so they weren't fired up enough
at the time,
initially, and the foul and the penalty yards might have hurt them in terms of where the field position Cal got the ball on that next drive. And that goes back to the point, if D.D. Goodson gets that pass interference call, I think this game's a little bit different, and we're answering right out of the bell in the second half. Instead, we're tied 28-28, and then Dara makes a really bad punt and gives Cal the ball on the 50-yard line, and Cal comes right back again and scores 35-28, and that's 21 unanswered points to start the half. Really no halftime adjustments for the Buffs, which is something we've seen a lot this year. The Buffs come out flat at halftime or just don't adjust. But, right after that, they came back and decided they wanted to play and they wanted to fight. They go 9 plays, 68 yards. Nelson Spruce catches it, touchdown pass to make it 35-35 going into the fourth quarter. And this is when things started to get crazy. The Buffs and the Bears combined for 4 TDs in something like the last 4 minutes of the game. And the first one was the best drive of the day to that point for the Buffs. They go 10 plays, 76 yards in 4 minutes, capped by a Spruce 6-yard TD in the slot for his second of the day. Really nice drive, just kept moving the ball downfield, nice execution, a few nice runs in there. Really, really well executed. We've gotten accustomed to seeing at least one of these nice long drives a game. Cal gets the ball preceding that, and they throw a 75-yard touchdown pass and make it 42-42. Something that, again, we've been accustomed to. We have a really nice thing happen to us, and then right away, boom, the other team is down the field scoring, and they're in their end zone. And then right again, on the next play, right after that Cal touchdown pass from scrimmage, 42-42, the next play from scrimmage, Cepho Lufau is picked off. And at this point, a lot of fans jumped off and thought the game was over because Cal had just scored and then got a pickoff in 2 consecutive plays. And Cepho, it was a bad play from Cepho. He was scrambling. He was on his back foot. And he tried to fit a ball into a window instead of throwing it away. And Cal instead takes over with the ball. About 2 minutes, 45 seconds left on the clock. And they go for a 40-yard TD pass to make it 49-42. And at this point, McIntyre, after the game, said, because they scored so fast, it gave us a chance. He thought they were just going to go down, get the ball to the 10-yard line, and kick a field goal and leave no time for the Buffs. But they didn't. And the Buffs, with 2:29 left on the clock, go for 10 plays, 75 yards, and Bryce Bobo TD, 30-yard TD. And I would have loved Mark Johnson to say that on his call.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a beautiful catch and throw. And, you don't really have Bobo go into the end zone in the corner like that, but he's got great feet for that. It was nice to see, especially for kind of a backup receiver that kind of outshadowed Shea Fields in this game.
Very much so. We're going to get into what we thought of the receiving corps in a second here. But you know what? There's a couple good plays on that drive. A 4th and 3 converted from Cepho to Spruce. Then you had Tony Jones pick up a nice 3rd and 1. It was a really nice scoring drive to keep it alive, and give the Buffs a chance and force overtime in this game. But right before we went into overtime at 49-49, we had a really interesting trick play where Cal had 2 quarterbacks and they threw it back and forth down the sides of the field. And I actually really liked that from a coaching standpoint. However, Greg Henderson almost did pick off that ball. I guess it would have been a fumble recovery and take it back. If he was going the other way, he would have been able to take it back for TD. The Buffs would have won that game with no time left.
And maybe that's why you don't see that kind of play more often. I mean, yeah, I really like it as well. It's interesting. You just see like something completely different. But, I mean, it's risky. You get forward pass and the ball is completely dead, or you just throw it and it gets picked off and you have no one to protect you, and it would be a touchdown straight away.
Right, and like Max said about this game, if you're a fan, that was a fun one to watch. And that certainly was a play that kind of how the game went. It was kind of reckless at times, but, it was so damn exciting. It was one of the most fun games I've seen as a Buff fan in the last few years from the football team. Going into overtime, Cal starts with the ball. We're defending, and the Buffs get stop on the first play on the running play, and then they break up a pass. And Jared Goff on a 3rd and 10 makes a beautiful pass for a TD 25 yards out. And you just cannot let a guy convert on a 3rd and 10 in overtime.
I mean, it was a beautiful play by Goff, but it's just something that, as Jake said, you just can't do. I mean, 3rd and 10, all you have to do is stop them on that play, and they'll kick the field goal, and then you've got a chance going back at them. And I don't know.
Instead, the Buffs are looking for a touchdown. They're forced to get a touchdown. And the next play the Buffs get, Nelson Spruce with the catch of the year. Unbelievable catch in the front corner of the end zone. Cepho to Spruce, 25 yards right away. I love that play call to just go, hey, you know what? You could score. We can score too. And we've been doing it all game, and we're going to do it again. And a great play call. There's some bad play calls and some good play calls in this game, and that certainly was one of the good play calls. Going into second overtime now, the score is 56-56. No, this was not a basketball game. This was a football game. The Buffs go for it twice on 4th down on this series. The first time, George Frazier runs and picks up 2 where he dived over the top to get to the Cal 14. Then Cepho completed a really nice pass to Kyle Slavin where he threw a ball over a guy and then in between 3 guys. Just an amazing pass. Everyone, I think, and their mothers thought that ball was going to be picked off.
It was an NFL throw. He put it where only the receiver could get it.
Right, off his back right foot scrambling to the right side, which is incredible.
Definitely. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, only Cepho can really complete those kind
Right,
of
there's that Manning passing camp paying off for him. And then this is where it got interesting. You had 1st and goal at the Cal 2. Tony Jones ran for no gain. Then you had Cepho go for 1. Then you have George Frazier on 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line run the same play he just ran at 4th down where he tried to jump over the top and get the ball in the end zone. It didn't work. Cal was there. It was obvious that they were going to run that play.
Yeah, just stack the box.
They had 10 guys in the box.
Yeah.
I know George Frazier's a big dude, but he ain't getting past that. It's not happening.
If you're going to do that, use Christian Powell. He's definitely your bulldozer.
And you have a little bit more speed coming into that.
Yeah. And you could even use Frazier to block on that play if you need to.
Right, who we've seen is a very good blocker.
Absolutely.
The next play, we're at 4th and goal at the 1-yard line. This is going to be talked about for maybe not just this year, but years. Because this was very, very interesting. I don't think anyone on the field really knew what the play call was. Neither do we. It was supposed to be some kind of pitch to Tony Jones from what I've been reading. But they don't really want to say because they might use the play again. But
it's not at a lethal point in the game.
Right. Please don't use that play again. So what happened was Cepho faked a handoff to Frazier. It looked like he turned around to the wrong way and didn't even really fake it to Frazier because Frazier was on his right and he went to the left. And then it looked like he was supposed to pitch it to Tony Jones, but Tony Jones was in the area where he could have had the ball handed off to him. And then Cepho just kept it himself because the play broke down and got tackled for a loss of 3, and Buffs don't score.
Yeah, 4th down, they turn it over. And
And really interesting that they go for it twice. You always hear basketball coaches talking about extending the game. You want to extend the game, especially on the road. Just keep giving yourself a chance to win. They go for it on 4th down twice. The first time I get a little bit more because Will Oliver was shaky in this game. The second time, it's at the 1-yard line. I know it was on the right hash, and I know it's a bad angle. But your field goal kicker isn't missing from the 1-yard line. That's just not happening. And Will Oliver...
Most field goal kickers, maybe. Will Oliver...
Oliver is nominated for some awards, so I really don't think... And he's made 81 straight extra points. So I really don't think he's missing that. So at that point, you can go up 59-56 and force Cal to kick a field goal, which the Buffs weren't even able to do all game. So I see it from both standpoints, but you always want to extend the game. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the call. I just don't agree with what play call they ran on 4th down where that play broke down, which I guess really isn't the play caller's fault. It's more of the miscommunication. Then right away after that, Cal does their thing for 3 plays and then kicks a short field goal to win it 59-56.
I mean, going back to that series, though, I think it's the entire series that's flawed. They had it at the 2, and they knew they were going to punch it in, or they thought they were, and they just kind of... There's a difference between running the ball and, and knowing that your team is going to run the ball. Because, they were trying to score the touchdown, but they weren't actually forcefully making the effort themselves. They just figured it's 2 yards, we're going to get it. We got 4 downs to do it, or 3 downs.
And to not even use Nelson Spruce, who had 19 catches in this game, given him even a look.
Just give him a little fade to the corner. I bet he can beat the corner.
Right, he didn't even fake. He went out to block every single time he ran.
He's a great blocker, I get that.
But you know what? At least, because if you run Nelson Spruce on a fade route, I swear he's going to be double covered.
It's true, but I mean, maybe that could be the distraction.
Well, either way, you want to use Nelson Spruce as much as you can, and
Absolutely.
we did in this game. 19 catches for 176 yards and 3 TDs. But going back to the play calling, there was times in this game where Brian Lindgren and Mike McIntyre made play calls like there was a shovel pass, which I don't think we've ever seen from from this Colorado offense under their current regime. And then you had really nice plays where you're running crossing routes and people were in the right spots rather than Tyler McCulloch bumping into D.D. Goodson, which we saw a few weeks ago. Instead, Tyler McCulloch was actually making these grabs. And then at other times, you had guys making double screen passes and, we
had players running the exact same routes and just kind of cluttering up the same area. It was just horrible spacing.
Right, and even at a time, you had D.D. Goodson in the red zone.
It was a great play by D.D. Goodson to make this catch, this fade to the left corner. But, I mean, he's 5'6".
You're running a fade route to a 5'6" guy.
Yeah, I mean, say no more. I mean, that's Demaryius Thomas. I get it. But D.D. Goodson, he made a great catch. It was a great throw. But 9 times out of 10, that's either a pick or an incomplete pass. It's a risky play, especially if that's not Nelson Spruce. I mean...
And this is the point with the play calling, and this hints on player usage too, is... Tony Jones was spectacular in this game, but he's not your goal line back. And for that entire goal line series, you had Tony Jones in at the end. And you had that happen a few times in this game where you had Tony Jones in at the goal line. Or you had Christian Paul going outside. You just didn't put your players in a position to succeed. And we always talk about putting these running backs in a position to succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And we thought Arizona State was going to be a big turning point with that last week, where they all of a sudden were putting these guys in for plays that were succeeding for them, or in a position to succeed for them, rather than just giving Paul a series, then Jones a series, then Atkins a series. They were using running back by committee more, and we didn't really see that in this game. We saw Tony Jones or really nothing, and even with that, they weren't putting guys in the best positions to succeed in terms of running backs. To point that out specifically, Sefo Lufau led the team in rushes with 10 carries and 72 yards. I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen going into this game. Paul, Adkins, and Lindsey combined for 26 rushes on 15, while Sefo and Tojo combined for 155 yards on 23. That's just not something you thought was going to happen going into this game. So the running back usage was a head scratcher, as was the play calling. Which we've seemed to be a theme of this 2014 Colorado Buffalo season, as long as I guess, uncommon too. That's their slogan, uncommon. We're gonna go running back committee by uncommon standards, I guess, would be their.
They're pulling it off, I guess.
They're pulling it off too. It's really tough to comprehend.
It's very uncommon, yeah. I mean, maybe because it didn't work too well.
Speaking of uncommon, we had Will Oliver miss 3 field goals in this game, and Will Oliver is now 4 for 8 on the year. He went 0 for 3 in field goals in this game. He hit 8 of 8 of extra points. And he's a really, really good kicker. He really is. And you know what? You might not agree with that, especially after what just happened this week, but he's been nominated for the best kicker award in the country the last 2 years. He's struggled at times, but he's very consistent. He isn't the most consistent, but he's consistent for a college kicker. And just to prove that, he's hit 81 straight extra points. But on the other hand,
this is Colorado. We need those kickers that can kick it distances.
Why don't you want to come play in Boulder? If you're the best kicker in the country, you should come want to play here.
That's an open invitation. You hear that, kickers around the world? We have the thinnest air in the world. Not CSU, because we're actually a higher elevation. But yeah, CU has the best air for kicking the ball. Ask Dara O'Neill. He knows.
Dara O'Neill has taken complete advantage of that, as we know. Whereas Will Oliver left 9 points on the board that were critical in this game this week, and that was really big missed opportunity. As were they had a fumble recovery that went back for a touchdown that got called back by the refs.
They didn't even bother trying to get it reviewed. And
right.
Then right after that was Thompson that made that play. Right after he'd made an interception earlier in the game, and then right after that is when Thompson actually went out. So. It ended up being very, very difficult.
Right, and when you leave 9 points on the board, just in general, from a field goal standpoint, that's a missed opportunity. And you know what? There was a lot of missed opportunities in this game. Colorado's defense was opportunistic and got a few stops in this game, but they weren't. They could have gotten more. Cal's offense did not look like something that CU had never seen before. It wasn't like the best thing since sliced bread. It was Jared Goff's a good quarterback. Cal is a good offense. But you know what? There's no reason they should have scored 59 points in this game, although the defense did play pretty well. And that's something to get into here is, you know what? Tedrick Thompson, like you just said, had the game of his year, or the game of his life even, until he got hurt.
And that was in the first half, so that shows what he was doing in the first half.
Right. And the secondary in general was great. Shido Awuzie was great. He had 7.5 tackles, assist-wise, and then 6 more solo tackles. Just a beast out there playing in the nickel position. He was awesome. The front seven we've talked about, Trevor's brought it up a lot, is just kind of something, they're not positive or negative. They're just not something that's mentionable. They don't make an impact on you. Where Shido Awuzie is making up for all these missed tackles and coming in there and preventing, the big play, really. Jimmy Gilbert looked great in this game. He had 2 sacks. A really solid outing. I think Marco wants to talk about him. Kenneth Crawley.
Yeah, I thought Kenneth Crawley, we did allow 59 points, but he was pretty locked down as far as his single man coverage. And if we can see that from him more often, I think that we could, send out our Thompsons and our Hendersons out to kind of do more of a zone, and he kind of can just hold down the fort on the best receivers. That's wishful thinking, though.
Right, and we like seeing Thompson in kind of a free safety position where he's allowed to do wherever he wants. We're not going to criticize anything with Thompson because he's been spectacular so far this year, and the coaching staff's put him in a good position. The other guy that's been in a really good position is Greg Henderson, who's been awesome. Kenneth Ogobode, he got hurt in this game. He's a key to our defense. Evan White was put in a tough spot. He's our special teams spark plug, and he had to go play safety. He did a pretty good job. But, the guy that we were pretty disappointed in was Addison Gillum. And I don't know if I really want to say disappointed as much as, he's got excuses for it because he's injured. He had the head injury last week.
I think that's really affecting him. It doesn't look like he's lingering from his other issues. It seems kind of mental.
He looked lost.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to put him down. That's something that more just I hope he gets better because Addison Gillum's our best defensive player. We need him to continue to be
Right,
there.
and this year he's had a down year with a combination of injuries, a plethora of injuries, really. Shoulder, elbow, a bum ankle, I think, at one point. And, coming off a freshman All-America year, you think his sophomore year he's gonna elevate and he's gonna have an unbelievable year. He just hasn't, and that's not a knock on him because he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. But, it's just been disappointing as a fan to see him come up with all these injuries and not progress the way we thought he was going to progress. Really, injuries holding him back. So we really hope to see him get better and have a stellar second half. Talk about a guy having a stellar sophomore year. Sefo Lufau. This game, 46 for 67, 455 yards, and 7 TDs. He broke, I think, pretty much every single Colorado record. He was unbelievable in this game. From a standpoint that you just didn't believe Sefo Lufau could throw for 455 yards or rush for 72.
Yeah. I mean, he was the Colorado offense. Apart from Nelson Spruce, he was the Colorado offense. And it's really great to see this. I mean, I cannot remember a time, pretty much since I've been alive. I mean, I've seen the footage since before my time, but this is the most exciting and prolific offense I've seen in Colorado's history. I mean, we may not be the best team, but we can go punch for punch with the Pac-12. And I'm not saying Cal is the best, but, I mean, we went pretty well with Arizona State. Cal is another great team. They went with Arizona pretty far. I mean, I think we can compete with Oregon. I'm probably overstepping my bounds a little bit. I know it's in Eugene. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll backtrack.
You know what? Go back to backtracking a little bit further. Was you said something before our time? Darian Hagan in the 1989 season had 48 completions in total his entire year. Sefo Lufau in this game had 46 completions. We love Darian Hagan. We named our show Darian Hagan like 3 weeks ago. But, that's a testament to how much college football has changed and how much we're really taking advantage of it. We ran 110 plays in this game. And 67 of them were passing plays. Sefo was great. He had a QBR of 88.7. That's really good. I still don't know how that works, but that's really, really good. I know that. And you know what? A lot of people would say we're taking a step forward in this game and a step forward in total. But Sefo, after the game, said he didn't want to say that they took a step forward, that they've been fighting for 4 quarters for the last 3 weeks now. So these guys really believe they can win these games. And saying that you didn't want to take a step forward when you took a Pac-12 team on the road into double overtime when you had never gotten a Pac-12 road win under Mike McIntyre says a lot. That these guys think that they're going to win every single game that they go play, and they're really disappointed when they don't.
That's great to see. I mean, that's what you want to see from a team that's young and growing. And, we continue to see that and then get more young, youthful players in this organization, just build up this rapport. I think that, I really like how the Colorado program is looking for the next couple of years.
Right. Max said after the game that if you're a part of the losing team, this loss was gut-wrenching, which says a lot. And even Nelson Spruce said, toughest loss I've been a part of. You fight to the end, up big, with a chance to put them away. And the Buffs really did have a chance to put them away in the second and third quarters and never took advantage of it. So something we want to see is them play for a full 4 quarters. Yeah, and while we're on the point of Nelson Spruce, man, is this guy unbelievable. 19 catches for 176 yards and 3 TDs.
Pretty good season, right?
Oh, yeah, he just leads the nation in receptions, yardage, and that other thing that's pretty important, touchdowns. Touchdowns, too. He leads the nation in every single category, receiving-wise.
Well, I was even just trying to make the point that his styling from tonight's game, or from the night's game, was like comparable to someone's season.
Yeah, and you know what? Nelson Spruce right now is 29 receptions, 649 yards, and 1 TD away from making a high water mark Colorado reception-wise or receiving-wise in all those categories. So we're certainly going to see Nelson Spruce, if he's healthy, break all these records in Colorado football history. And the way he's been playing is he's going to stay healthy because Sefo's been throwing balls to him where he can get down or he can get out of bounds. He hasn't been hit really hard this season yet. He hasn't been left over the middle. He hasn't gotten... You know what? I take that back because I think it was the Hawaii game, he got that one play where he got flipped entirely around. So, you know what, I take that back, but for the most part, he hasn't been put in that position. But to keep going on the wide receivers, Tyler McCullough, awesome. Since we mentioned him on the podcast, he's been awesome. 6 receptions for 69 yards. Dede Goodson was great, 6 for 42 and a touch. Bryce Bobo, he had 2 for 36 and a touch. 1 was a 30-yard play, so he really only got one important play. And then you had Sean Irwin get a touchdown. And then Shea Fields, who really, really was quiet in this game. He had 2 receptions for 12 yards. And I know this was his first game back in California, and I think his family was there. I don't know what that says really, as much as just, he's a freshman and it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that the other receivers were getting open or Cepho just wasn't looking his way. I mean, it happens. Players get shut down sometimes, but I'd like to see Shea get out there next game.
Right, we're not going to knock on a freshman that's doing that well because you know what, he has bad games, and I don't think it's worth knocking on Shea Fields because he did us the great honor of choosing to play here, and
Absolutely.
He honestly could have gone anywhere he wanted, and he chose here. So let's support Shea as much as we can because we really do believe in him, and I really want people to think before they say anything dumb about Shea Fields because going back the last few games, those passes he gets, he's gone for like 50 or 60 yards in games, but those passes he gets are 1 or 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, and he just takes them yards after catch.
Plays.
So
yeah, he's a special player that we really need to continue to get the ball to in any way we can. And as Jake said, we got to, just like with Nelson Spruce, we got to just use them in the right ways so that they're not going to get hurt because that's the only thing I can see holding us back at this point.
That's about it for our Cal recap. Buffs once again dropped that 59-56. Kind of reminded me a lot of the Cal basketball game from this year, which we dropped 66-65. Xavier Johnson went off in that game, and it was the last regular season game of the year, and the Buffs got knocked out of 4th place that day. So, something to keep in mind there. We've had a few overtime losses to Cal in the last few years here, dating back to even 2011 where we lost to them here in Boulder. To jump around the Pac-12, another awesome week of football in the Pac-12. Damn, am I happy that we're in this conference because it is so fun to watch. UCLA beat Arizona State 62-27. Taylor Kelly did not play for Arizona State. He's still hurt from when he got injured in the Colorado game. I think that game's a little bit different if Taylor Kelly's playing. Stanford beat Washington 2013 in a game that was really to decide who was going to compete with Oregon for the Pac-12 North title. Stanford scored on a late TD in the 4th quarter. Washington State beat Utah 28-27. Utah is now 1-11 against all teams not named Colorado in Pac-12 play. Washington State scored 21 points in the second half. Nice coaching job from Mike Leach, which we don't say often. And then the big game of the day for our eyes was USC versus Oregon State, our next 2 opponents. USC won 35-10. Oregon State, of course, comes in here this week, and we see a very, very solid Oregon State team, another Pac-12 team. They come in at about a touchdown favorite right now as we talk about it Sunday night. And their best player is their quarterback, Sean Mannion, who was going to be a 3rd-round pick last year if he went out to the draft. Instead, he decided to stay, and he's right now ranked the 4th quarterback in the country by Mel Kiper and those guys over at ESPN. And Sean Mannion so far in the year is 91-145 with 1,026 yards, 4 TDs, and 4 interceptions. Not very good stats, but last year he had 400 completions on 603 attempts with 4,662 yards. That's just silly. That's video game numbers. That looks like Nelson Spruce is the wide receiver. Instead, he had Braden Cooks, who won the Blitnikoff last year. Brandon Cooks. Sorry, I messed up that name so many times tonight. But you know what? He had Brandon Cooks last year, who won the Blitnikoff last year, and Nelson Spruce is going to win the Blitnikoff this year. So kind of how that works. Once again, Mannion, 37 touchdowns last year and 15 interceptions. Last game, not very well, 15 of 32 with 123 and 2 interceptions. So he's looking to have a big day, and he definitely could. He's got a lot of weapons at the wide receiver position, and we certainly want to see Tedrick Thompson play in this game, or else I think we're going to be in a little bit of trouble from a secondary standpoint. They have Richard Moloney, Victor Bolden, and Connor Hamlet all over 150 yards on the year, all over 12 receptions, and all have a touchdown. A solid receiving corps. Their guy to really look out for, who I think is one of the most underrated running backs in the Pac-12, is Storm Woods, who has 46 carries on 273 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they have another running back that's pretty good, Taron Ward, who has 47 carries, 241 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So Oregon State is no joke. Although I was very unimpressed with how they played this week against USC, so I think we do have a solid shot in this game. Real quickly before we go into our predictions for the game, I want to jump back around in the Pac-12, talk about what's going on this week in the Pac-12. Certainly some really good football games in the Pac-12 this week once again, so I just want to update you and let you know what's going on. It starts off on Thursday night. What a spectacular Thursday night game we have once again. Arizona and Oregon. This is going to be a good game, even though Oregon's a 23-point favorite, which I think is a little bit of a joke because Arizona is 4-0 on the year. And although they've had some close games with some weaker opponents, I'm talking about like Weber State. They were close with Weber State. So, like, some really weaker opponents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they're 1-0 in the Pac-12, 4-0 total, and Oregon is 4-0 and 1-0 in the Pac-12. So that's going to be a hell of a game on Thursday night, 8:30 Central Time. Or no, 8:30 Mountain Time, that's what it is. I always see Pacific on Pac-12 and then Eastern on ESPN. Anyways, the game of the week in the Pac-12 is going to be Stanford versus Notre Dame. 1:30 our time on NBC. We're not going to be able to watch it. We'll all be at Folsom Field, but that'll be a fun game to watch the highlights of or watch the replay of. Then later on in the day, you have Arizona State USC, which is going to be a fun one to watch. Right now, USC is a 10-point favorite. You got Utah and UCLA, which UCLA certainly should blow out Utah, I think, although Utah could compete in this game. UCLA is a 13-point favorite. And then you have California and Wazoo. Wazoo's a 3-point favorite in that game. To get into us, Colorado right now, like we said, is a touchdown underdog in this game. Certainly some things to look out for from Oregon State. They have some very good players on their team, but they're not the best team in the Pac-12, but they're certainly not a cakewalk. Marco, how do you see this game going down?
Well, the numbers have us as a touchdown underdog. I'm going to say that we win by a touchdown, 28-21. I think, as you said, Oregon State, they're a formidable team, but we have a lot of fight in us, and I think one of the only times we actually might have a chance to win the season is against Oregon State, and it's here at Folsom. We got to take that opportunity when we have it.
Yeah, no doubt. I see this game being a winnable game for the Buffs, and I never predict the Buffs to win, so, smite me if the Buffs lose, because I always say they're going to lose, and I really do think this is a winnable game for the Buffs. I think they're going to win this one like 27-30, something around there. That's a lot of field goals from Will Oliver. I do know that. That's 10 field goals if we don't get a touchdown from Will Oliver.
I made sure my prediction had no field goals, just for the record.
But they have some solid players. They have some solid players on their defensive side of the ball. A couple guys with sacks, a couple guys with multiple interceptions. So the Buffs are really going to want Addison Gillum and Tedrick Thompson to be healthy, and Cepho Lufau to have another big day. But if Cepho and Nelson have another big day, I have no doubts that we can win this game if our defense comes to play ball. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the Silver and Gold Show, episode number 5, the Rodney Speedy Stewart edition. Trevor McKinney once again could not be here due to some technical difficulties we had.
He'll be here next week.
Right. He'll be here next week for episode number 6 when we recap Oregon State. We actually will have a bye week after that, so we're going to have a little bit weirder of a schedule going on. For Marco Mamelin, I am Jake Shapiro. You can find us once again on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at Silver Gold Show. Have a good week. We'll talk to you next week. Go Buffs.